Hey everyone, Andrew the Astronaut here, and welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program video. So, a few days ago, I created the dinosaur from the proposed US Air Force project, and a lot of you seem to like that video, and I actually really enjoyed making the space plane. So, I thought maybe I could do another one of those, this time custom. So I took a lot of inspiration from the Hermes spaceplane, which was ESA's proposed space shuttle to help build and service the Columbus station. Now you can see me creating this small little probe inside the cargo bay. And what I'm going to use that for is to knock it into a satellite into solar orbit. Yes, this thing has mountains of delta V and has enough to get into a pretty expensive delta V solar orbit, which was pretty cool. And I kind of molded those two Mark II crew cabins together, so it might not look that good because it has an egregious amount of part clipping to the point where it looks like it wasn't even stock in the first place. There really aren't that many choices for spaceplane cockpits, unless you have mods like near future technologies or really realistic parts and stuff like that. So this is kind of like that awkward shape that the Dream Chaser, the X-35, X-15, those kinds of aircraft that use cockpits that are molded together into these kinds of Mark II fuel tanks, if that makes any sense. And we're gonna be building the wings here, and I'm just gonna say it straight here, guys. At the end of this video, there's gonna be something pretty interesting happening, so stick around to the end of the video and find out. Now, I have these 5 spark engines, but they don't provide that good enough thrust to weight ratio, so I end up switching them out for an aerospike. And for those of you who don't know what an aerospike is, well, I barely have enough time in this video to explain the complex and superiority of the aerospike over any snazzy liquid-fueled rocket. I'll link a documentary about them in the description. And you can see me here adding those solar arrays so that the spaceplane can have power. And you can see I named it the Atlantis spaceplane. Now, I just came out of that name out of the blue. It really has no significant meaning. It's a name so that I can make a video about it. If I just called it Untitled Spacecraft, that wouldn't be so good. So I guess I could ask you guys to think of a better name. So this is me here adding the aerospike. Now, the aerospike cannot gimbal, so we need RCS thrusters in order to maneuver it around while we're burning. So you can see me currently, we're now constructing the rocket, and I was originally going for like a 2.5 meter orange boy, but that just wasn't working, so I decided to make a 3.5 diameter mammoth scale parts, and we're gonna add a Rhino engine as the second stage, and we're just gonna make a very SLS-esque looking rocket, though at the end it does end up having those ginormous fins to the point where they're basically aircraft wings bolted onto the rocket, and it's gonna have liquid boosters. Now, I have no idea what was going on with these solid rocket boosters, but whenever I launched, it would just separate from the entire craft. Like, when I loaded it up, oh, by the way, we're also hiring a Kerbal named Chad Tree Kerman. Pretty sure I'm not referencing any kind of Chad person, but anyway, so here we are testing out this spacecraft, and as you can see here, the solid rocket boosters don't exist. By the way, I admire those amazing plumes by the Waterfall mod. I've had a bunch of trouble installing Waterfall, and well, it's because I didn't have Module Manager, and you can see it flipped out of control, so we're just gonna fire the aerospike and Rhino and just fly and glide this back to the runway. And Chattree decided to have a little fun with the aircraft and make it spin out of control. I'm pretty sure Andrew Kerman was not happy about that, and our nose cone exploded. That was bad, but at least we know that if we need to abort, we have the option to. So I tested this out again without any struts to see if it was the struts causing this. and for some reason it just wouldn't load. And I even, after launching this attempt and failing, I thought it was just like the solid rocket booster decoupler. So I just launched it with just the normal. So I just launched it with the normal solid rocket booster just attached to it, but it still didn't work. So yeah, if anyone knows why this is happening, please comment down below. This is the first time it's ever happened. So we're just gonna add some liquid boosters with 4 vector engines. Yeah, basically these boosters have their own mammoth engines on them. So it's 3 mammoth engines powering that first stage, but we only need those boosters to fire to get us into orbit anyway, so you can admire that amazing launch with the waterfall mod and scattera and all those visual flare mods. And we flip out of control once more, and yeah, this was very unstable. At this point I was like, oh no, it's gonna take forever. But then, well, I was like, why not just add bigger fins? Just go bigger. As you scale things up, it genuinely becomes better and easier. I also thought about encasing it in a fairing, but it was very comically wide. It to the point where it was completely unrealistic. So I decided to just test my luck and see if the longer fins would just work. And thanks to the amazing piloting of Chad Tree and Andrew Kerman, we are able to successfully get into orbit. And we're gonna fire off that solid rocket, well, more like the liquid boosters, and then we're gonna decouple those, and then we're gonna warp to apoapsis and use their mammoth engine to almost circularize into an orbit. We're not close, but you know, it's because I didn't really want to leave the core stage in orbit. Also, we didn't have enough delta V. And we have mountains of delta V left in that second stage, so we could practically take this thing to the mun. And you can see us here deorbiting that second stage because I don't really want to leave debris in orbit. Here at Andrew the Astronaut Industries, just like at Lown Aerospace, we care about the space polar bears and the solar bears and the space dolphins. Anyway, we're going to be circularizing our orbit here, and it's pretty close. It still had a lot of delta V left after this, so you could probably take this thing to land on like Minmus or something. But we're going to deploy that satellite, and oh, what's this? Kraken attacks. And I immediately realized why. I had clipped in those docking ports into that piston, so it wasn't working. So I just time warped so that they would just clip through each other, and it would be perfectly fine. Now, here am I ejecting it into a solar orbit. Now, I was first of all thinking about maybe making a mun gravity-assisted thing, but we have mountains of delta V, we don't really need that, so we just decided to bonk this thing into a very expensive solar orbit, and now we're just going to switch back to our space plane, and as I suspected, hatches are obstructed. We're just going to spend some more time in orbit. I think by now Andrew and Chantry want to go home, so we're going to fire up that aerospike and we're going to deorbit. Don't mind that craft labeled submarine, that'll become manifest once we re-enter. Now, I was too shallow of a re-entry profile to get near the KSC, so we're just going to be splashing down in the ocean here. I don't really like that, but hey, at least it's better than crashing and dying and destroying our glorious space plane. And I actually saw in the distance some of my submarine. Now, I did this off camera while I was just having fun with my save file, and looks like it's still there. So maybe we could make the crew on the submarine come over to Atlantis and pick them all up. But we're gonna have to use the rest of our fuel in here to burn towards them so that we can get close. Now, the beautiful thing about these aerospikes are that they're both efficient in the atmosphere and in a vacuum. So they're basically the poodles in the vacuum of space, and they're also kind of like the Reliance in the atmosphere, if that makes any sense. And we're just gonna glide safely towards the ground. Our nose cone did get destroyed, and we're gonna switch over to this submarine. It's the very jankily assembled submarine. This is probably not my best craft, so we're just gonna point towards there and burn and burn with those Panther engines. Don't mind those explosions. Let's just say this is a nuclear sub. And I'd say that's about the end of this video. So thanks everyone for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell so that you get notified when I make these videos and support me. And this is Andrew the Astronaut signing off.